Brought to you by Petrosoil Clean Fuel in full quantity. The Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, CIMA, together as the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants and German Ozone Medical Center, Alternative Therapy, Dental Wellness and Beauty, Chobos Technologies, a Convenience Service and Youth Bridge Foundation. This election brief on your election headquarters. We are live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV 125, and all our social media handles at Joy News on TV. Election headquarters for an informed electorate. Please stay tuned for details. Let's zoom into our very first story where the National Democratic Congress, the NDC's flag bearer, John Mahama, intends to scrap the government One District, One Factory initiative if he's re-elected, proposing instead to redirect the millions saved into other critical sectors, particularly into farming. Mr. Mahama argued that the initiative, while ambitious, has not delivered the desired economic impact, and that the resources could be better utilized to support agriculture, which he believes is fundamental to revitalizing the country's economy.
When I announced the last IMF program, I said it will be the program to end all programs, and that it was my hope that we will not go into another IMF program ever again. Unfortunately, my prophecy did not come to pass. This government made many mistakes, and we find ourselves in this crisis again. They always attribute it to COVID-19 and all that, but we could see the signals even before COVID-19. One, we need to cut down expenditure. This government is not willing to cut expenditure. In crisis, you slash expenditure and increase revenues. All they're doing is increasing revenues, but without reducing expenditure. And that's why I've said we'll cut down the size of government, we'll reduce the number of ministers. We're going to eliminate all those wasteful projects, one village, one dam, and all those things that they spend billions on, so that we can use that money in the more productive sectors to make the economy grow again. We'll use government's financial muscle to help indigenous Ghanaian companies. And so government will buy first from Ghanaian companies than import from outside. I think that if we do that, it will create more employment within our country. And then most importantly, we would invest in agriculture and agro-processing. We've never ever invested in the full value chain. We always give support to farmers to produce more, like planting for food and jobs, MetaSIP. When I was there, we had the medium-term agricultural strategic investment plan. All those programs aim at the farmer to increase his production.
But Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia, who is seeking to succeed President Akufo-Addo, insists the government has prudently managed the economy despite external challenges and even expenditure. He spoke at the Eid Adha prayers.
Global events in the past 3 to 4 years have had significant impact on nations and their citizens. And our country, Ghana, has not been spared. This led to a series of uncomfortable situations for our citizens. Even though we are not where we want to be, that is back to the economic boom we experienced a few years prior to the crisis. The data shows that our economy is on the path of economic recovery. Government on its part has cut down general expenditure significantly. In spite of the global economic situation, government has remained committed to delivering on its mandate.
Now, our research desk has been looking into this expenditure cut. Kofi Ajay joins me in studio with more. Kofi, what have you found?
Well, so Carlos, the claim is that general expenditure has been cut. But let's look at what the data is saying.
Okay.
So we go straight to the Ministry of Finance, their own fiscal data that tracks the country's budgetary allocation. So we are looking at Ghana's expenditure right from 2012 to 2024. These are budgetary allocations, and in most cases you find the revised versions. There were part where, you know, there were the initial budget and then these budgets were revised. Now we are talking about appropriations because we are adding arrears and then also amortization. So we are looking at the entire expenditure for government within a certain fiscal year. So you can see from 19 billion, you know, Ghana cedis in 2012, we've moved now to 259, a little above 259 billion, you know, Ghana cedis. That is what we've projected to spend in 2024, which is this year. Now, the claim is that general expenditure, which is usually total expenditure, has it really been cut? If you look at 206 in 2023 versus 259.05 billion Ghana cedis, that tells you that expenditure has not been cut, but rather general expenditure has gone up by more than 50 billion Ghana cedis just from 2023 to 2024. You can see the movement right from 2022 that the increase in general expenditure has been sharp from 145.47 billion cedis to 206 billion cedis. Now we are talking about close to 260 billion Ghana cedis. Now this comes at a time when we are not even servicing our debt. And so we've made budgetary allocation for interest payments and all of those things, but there's a freeze on most of our debt. We've done, you know, DDEP, and so we are expecting that the budgetary allocation for expenditure will come down, but we are seeing
rather climbing.
Absolutely, more than 50 billion Ghana cedis being added. Now, is it just that, I mean, is it the gross figure that has not reduced, or we are talking about the rate of change? So let's look at a different, you know, diagram to talk about this more. Now you can see how much we add to the total expenditure every year. In 2012, between 2011 and 2012, we added 5.5 billion Ghana cedis to the expenditure, moved to 9 billion, 5 billion reduced. So between 2013 and 2014, it reduced. Now it increased to in 2015, we are talking about 11.15 billion Ghana cedis. Remember that between this period, we had an IMF program.
Exactly.
So what we see is that the rate at which we're adding more debt, you know, expenditure to our budget actually reduced from 11 billion now to close to 8 billion. Now we move as low as even 3.4 billion addition in 2018. Now, right from 2019, you see that we started adding.
A huge jump there.
Absolutely, 19.84 billion cedis to 24.79 billion cedis. What happened? Right after COVID, we sensed the economic crisis coming. So what do? We cut down on expenditure slightly by some 19.09 billion cedis. The rate at which we were adding also reduced again to 16.44 billion cedis. Now, in 2023, this is where
what really happened here?
2023 was more or less like the peak of the economic crisis, where we needed the Bank of Ghana to step in. Remember, Bank of Ghana made a loss of more than 60 billion cedis in 2023. Now, government needed a lot of support. Remember that they would find themselves in a very tight fiscal corner. So what happened? They added 60.53 billion Ghana cedis to the expenditure. Now, this was the period that between 2022 and 2023 that they were expecting huge revenues from the e-levy, which did not really come as planned. But what we are seeing is that instead of 60, we were expecting to see the increase. We've seen the decline from 60.53 billion cedis to additional you know, expenditure of 53.04 billion cedis. Now, let's look at the rate of change. That will tell the story proper. Now, I don't know if the vice president was talking about the rate of change that has increased, because we've looked at the gross figure. The gross figure has not changed, has rather gone up. But the rate at which we add more expenditure to our total budget, you can see the highest has been in 2013. If you're looking at the period under review, where we added, you know, the rate of change was around almost 48%. Now, just look at between 2023 and 2024, the rate of change has slowed from 41.61% to now 25.75%. So maybe, I don't know if this is what he was talking about, But if you segregate the claim and talk about just maybe the gross side
is not really.
Absolutely, we've added more than 50 billion Ghana cedis to the total expenditure, general expenditure.
Okay.
But if you're looking at it from the rate of change, the rate at which we add more expenditure to our budget, that has slowed from 41.61% to 25.75%. Also, it's good to note that because former President Mahama has been talking about flagship programs.
All right.
Although we've seen the decline in terms of the rate of change, the total budgetary allocation to the flagship programs has not changed.
Okay.
It's still about 9 billion Ghana cedis. And if you look at road infrastructure, if you look at the free SHS program, one district, one factory, and other flagship programs have all seen increases in their budgetary allocation. One that caught my attention was the nursing and teacher trainee allowances, which I think has increased more than 300 million Ghana cedis. I don't know whether it's because it's an election year, that's why government...
That's for 2024.
That's for 2024.
Okay.
It's moved from, I think, a little below 400 to now we're talking about 700 million Ghana cedis. And so on the flagship side, the budget has not changed. It's still the same. But if you go deep, there are other programs that they've seen their budget cut significantly.
Okay.
Others have seen rises. But one thing we need to note is that the one district, one village, one dam, I did not see it under government flagship program for this year and last year. I don't know whether they've dropped it, but what we can report is that the rate at which government is adding more expenditure to their budget has now slowed from 41.6% to 25.75%.
Thank you so much. Kofi J is with our research desk coming to us with details of the data he's been looking into. Let's bring in Dr. Kojo Opoku. He's an economist and research fellow, Center for Social Policy Studies at the University of Ghana. Doc, thank you so much for joining us. Now, slashing salaries of government officials and freezing employment. How effective have these expenditure cuts stabilized the economy and addressed the budget deficit from where you sit?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers. So, I think in 2022, when the Russia-Ukraine war started, and there were a lot of problems and instability in the economy, that's where the government issued this edict that the ministers, especially, were not. They were 30% of their wages was going to be slashed. Then also, after the IMF came in, there have been some employment freezes. And so with this, there are already a lot of workers in the system. And these are public sector workers.
Okay.
And usually when it happens like that, for example, in many universities, when they leave, they are allowed to replace, but not just that there are no addition. So you are not going to see any concrete reduction in the government expenditure as you would expect. But with regards to the ministers slashing their salaries by 30%, you will see that if you have, for example, 80 people as ministers and they are on average, they are earning 30,000 Ghana cedis. Then if you take 30% away, it means that by the end of for example, the 10 months in 2022, they were likely to have given the economy by almost 6 billion. 6 million Ghana cedis. But of course, if you look at government expenditure, which is about 200 billion Ghana cedis, just saving 6 million Ghana cedis will not do anything. But of course, they should have probably invested in a specific area. For example, to build a school, for people to see what they have done. I think NDC time, something happened like that, and they use this to build chip houses. If you add it to the consolidated fund and they are going to use it, nobody will see it. So the impact may be there, but since it has messed with the consolidated fund and they are using it, it's just small, minute amount that will not be effective in terms of people want to see what we have done. But with regards to the general reduction in government expenditure, I think if you look at the budget, for example, in 2023, government budgeted, revised budget was about 183 billion. But at the end of the year, he spent about 170 billion. So you could see the attempt, especially when the IMF came in, it was reduction. But you have to be very careful. When all of us are thinking about government reduction, government expenditure reduction, if you look at 2023, before IMF came, we were doing almost 4% of GDP the first quarter. Immediately, IMF came in the second quarter, reduced our government expenditure reduced by 1.6%. And output also reduced from about 4% to 2.2% in the second quarter and the third quarter and the fourth quarter. So there's a consequence when you try to reduce government expenditure. And the point is that your government expenditure helps, for example, in the construction sector, in increasing employment for construction workers. So when everybody now, we have the country, I think the country, we have gaslighted the government to think that reducing government expenditure is the way to go. So the government in power saying, I'm going to reduce expenditure. The opposition say, I'm going to reduce expenditure. But we have forgotten about the cost or the sacrifice cost that we are doing. And that is, we are actually reducing the potential GDP and also reduce the employment. And this is what we need. And so everybody, ordinary citizen in Ghana, think that reducing budget, reducing government expenditure is good. They don't know the implications.
All right.
So we have to be very careful that in promising reduction of government expenditure, it has a consequence. And that's what we have been seeing, that unemployment continues to increase. And it continues to increase. So you have to be very careful in buying into the thinking that we have to reduce government budget at all costs, government expenditure at all costs.
All right.
That is not based on any economic principle.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Kojo Poku, for sharing your thoughts with us on this very subject. Moving away from the story, former President John Agyekum Kufuor has described the youth as ultimate kingmakers, admonishing their full participation in the 2024 election. Over 21% of registered voters failed to turn out for the 2020 general election. The Kufuor Scholar Program, in partnership with the National Commission for Civic Education, has launched a voter campaign aiming at improving youth participation in the upcoming general election. Clinton Yeboah has more in the following report.
Of the country to bring you this particular exercise.
Despite over 17 million Ghanaians of voting age registering to vote in the 2020 elections, only 13 million turned up to vote. This indicates a whopping 3.5 million Ghanaians of voting age failing to vote in the 2020 elections. Concerns of voter apathy, economic hardship and misgovernance are emerging as reasons these individuals may have failed to vote. The situation has been reviewed to be more critical in the upcoming December 7th elections, as a survey conducted by the Kufuor Scholars on voter interest revealed 43% of every 1,000 Ghanaians plan not to vote. Given the urgency, the Kufuor Scholars Program of the John Agyekum Kufuor Foundation has partnered the National Commission for Civic Education to launch a voter campaign exercise aimed at heightening education and awareness on voting during elections. The former President John Agyekum Kufuor, speaking at the launch and graduation ceremony of the 2023 batch of the Kufuor Scholars, admonished the Ghanaian youth to attend to their civic obligations by ensuring full participation in governance and elections of leaders.
The real sovereign authority of the country is you as the individual. It's us as individuals. You are sovereign. But how do we express our sovereignty? In ancient Greece, everybody went to the forum or marketplace to take part in deciding how the society was governed. Everybody, each and every individual went. Those times, there were city-states with a few people. Now, Ghana alone has about 30 million citizens. With your learning and mature brain power throughout our societies, if you would do what you should do as responsible citizens to try to give the nation good leadership, inclusive leadership, if you do that, then I tell you, within a few years, you'll see Ghana turning around to really become a hub, to be emulated on the continent of Africa to better the lot of humanity. So, you've got it. And I don't think you will be stoppable if you really stick to it and give the right direction.
The Kufuor Scholars Program has seen the graduation of over 200 refined youth to make an impact in the world. The voter campaign aims to utilize seminars, stakeholders and community engagement to sensitize the Ghanaian populace, especially the youth, on their civic electoral duties. The campaign is themed Empowering Future Leaders, Education, Democracy and Civic Engagement. Chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education, Kathleen Addy, believes full participation of youth in elections and governance will entrench Ghana's democracy.
As young people, do not allow yourselves to be used by powerful forces to create problems, chaos, confusion, to take up arms, to go and hurt your neighbor, all in the name of politics. Is that there's no great hero coming from anywhere to come and save us. We are the ones we've been waiting for. You need to go out there and vote. At the Commission, and I'm really happy that you've launched this voter education program. Like many other organizations, NCC is happy to work with you through this campaign because, of course, it aligns with our own objective for this year, one of the big objectives, which is to ensure that everybody who can vote does vote, because that is the only way to ensure that we continue to entrench the democracy that we have built.
Reporting for Joy News, my name is Clinton Yeboah.
Let's remain in the Ashanti region a bit longer because calls for the NPP flag bearer, Dr. Mahama Bawumia, to choose his running mate from the Ashanti region has intensified following the massive response to his 3-day tour of the region. Some traders of the KJTL market are particularly pushing for the Chief of Staff, Akosua Opare, as a running mate for the 2024 presidential election. Interacting with the media, the traders stated her performance as Chief of Staff is indicative of her qualities. Nana Ojima has more in the following report.
In 2020, the Ashanti region gave the New Patriotic Party over 1.7 million votes, a major boost for the party's victory in the general election. With intensified campaigning for the 2024 election, the NPP is envisaging an increase in the party's fortunes as part of efforts to break the 8. Some traders at the KJTL market in Kumasi say the success of the party in attaining the feat is partly dependent on the choice of running mate. Leader of the group, Kwame Yeboah, speaking to the media, believes the Chief of Staff, Akosua Opare, is best fit to deepening the party's fortunes.
In times of trouble, she comes to our rescue. She has been there for the market women. Racecourse is an example. She has shown much interest in gender issues.
The traders are pleading with the NPP to endorse their choice. They tout the Chief of Staff's achievement in her present office.
We are
pleading with the NPP leadership to choose the Chief of Staff as running mate. The woman has genuinely shown love to traders.
Because
women can't be left out of politics. For that reason, we plead with you to appoint Akosua Opare as running mate.
For Joy News, Nana Ojima, Kumasi.
Now, the new patriotic parliamentary candidate for Bolgatanga Central, Elvis Etiafigo Awonekai, is confident that his expertise as an accountant, a former football player, musician, and now an experienced politician gives him the requisite skills to win the Bolgatanga Central parliamentary seat for the new patriotic party for the very first time. Upper East Regional correspondent Albert Sori caught up with him on his campaign trail and comes through with the following report.
I'm officially known as Elvis Figo Atia Awonekai. Figo is originally not a name given to me by my parents, but this is a name that came to stand as a result of my several years of engagement in football and football-related activities. I was a very good footballer. And
a former football player, he is now an accomplished accountant with the Ghana Health Services, has a master's degree in ICT, and is about to acquire another master's degree in corporate governance. In the mix of all this, he once pursued a music career as well.
in 2004 or 2005, Nescafe 3-in-1. I formed a group called Malaikas. I led that group and we won the Northern Zone event and we represented at the national event. In the national event that year, it was Prayer won that year, and since then...
Elvis Atia Figo Awonikai is bringing a refreshing twist to traditional politics, perhaps due to his diverse enterprises. However, the journey to becoming the new Patriotic Party's parliamentary candidate for the Bolgatanga Central constituency of the Upper East region started about 20 years ago.
When I had just finished the senior secondary school, I was made the polling station secretary in the Tanzui, Zobisi, Sokobisi electoral area. I was appointed as the constituency communication officer. Afterward, I served as assistant secretary for the region 4 years, and in 2022, I attempted to contest for the regional secretary, which I had a massive endorsement again from the delegates. Last year, I picked nomination and contested to become the MPP parliamentary candidate for Bolgatanga Central constituency.
He is passionate about empowering women and the youth and will leverage his diverse skill set to connect with constituents and drive meaningful change.
I was single-handedly raised by my mom. When I'm made MP, I'll devote something from the common fund to be able to empower women, basket weavers. I'm engaging dressmakers, and I'm engaging several sectors of the women within the constituency to be able to empower them. Jobs. When I'm made MP, I will go out to lobby for several opportunities to give to our young men.
But considering that the NPP has never won the Bolgatanga Central parliamentary seat, how does Elvis Atia Figo Awonikai weigh his chances, especially against Isaac Adongo, the NDC's candidate and incumbent MP for the constituency?
I am a grassroots person. Even before becoming parliamentary candidate, there are so many projects one can point to that either I am directly involved or I have lobbied for them. So my chances are very bright. We have been on the grounds.
That's all we have on Election Brief from your election headquarters here in Accra. You can log on to myjoyonline.com for more election-related stories. My name is Carlos Kaloni. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great afternoon.